Hello, I'm Reverend Onyx. I'm the priest here at Lady of the Circle in the Oaks in Thomasville, North Carolina now. We've moved from Lexington, and that's part of the reason why it's been so long since I've made a video and addressed everyone. We, um, we've had a busy month. We're moved. Everything's in place. Well, most things are in place, but as everyone knows, it takes about 10 times longer to unpack than it does to pack. We're still deciding where to put everything. But we're back online. We're moving along, and it is way over time for me to move along in my discussion of the five mystic secrets. In a prior video, I discussed my ideas on the first sister, which is knowledge. Today, I'm going to talk to you about my interpretation of the work, the five mystic secrets, and the second sister, which is God. Now, eventually everybody comes to know God. Each of us will come to know God in our own way. That's because God talks to each of us in a way that we best understand and is best for us at the time. It's not difficult for us to gain knowledge, like as in the first sister, but it's only good if you make it your own. Remember, I spoke about knowledge coming from within. Anybody can pay lip service to belief. I believe this or I believe that, but if you don't really accept it down deep inside, then it really doesn't do you any good. So this is kind of the way I think, and your mileage may vary. Like I've always said, I don't want you to think like me. I just want you to think. So God is not on a timetable. God can wait. God can wait forever. God doesn't hate you. God's not looking for any reason to slap you down, because you and all of us are a work in progress. God's not going to be upset with us if it takes us a little bit longer to get there than it does someone else. It doesn't matter how long it takes for us to get there, as long as we get there. And it is our job, it is our task to go to God, not the other way around. If by some chance you didn't arrive, which not actually going to happen, because eventually, no matter how circuitous it is, all paths will lead to God, and we will all eventually know God. But if by some strange twist of fate you didn't make it, God is not going to be diminished in any way by your absence. Not even in the least. You not making it to God, if it could happen, is not a loss to God. It's a loss to you. It is an ultimate and absolute truth that God is eternal. God cannot be diminished in any way by the actions or inactions of any of us. God doesn't need our worship or even our acknowledgement to exist and to flourish. God has existed long before anything else and will continue to exist long after everything is gone, and will not cease due to any actions or inactions that we could possibly do. Now, as a pagan, I choose to see God as my mother. She created all of other existence out of her own self. Now, God is just as much my father. But God's existence is not limited by the names that we choose to put on her. Doesn't matter what we call her. God is not Yahweh. God is not Allah. God is not Diana. God is not Artemis or any other name we choose to put on her. These are our images alone, and they're there for our convenience alone. God existed in a time, even back when the highest form of life on earth was the dinosaurs, or even the bacteria that were swimming in the primordial soup. She was no less a god then. So why do we even think that since they didn't write hymns or build temples or anything like that, and it didn't diminish her at that point, what makes you think that she needs our hymns and our temples and all that now? God doesn't exist for us. She doesn't exist for our sake. Nothing we can do can bolster her or weaken her existence. God exists because God exists. We don't have the answers. We may never. God does not have any need to go running after followers and worshipers, making promises of what she will give them in exchange for their allegiance. It's us that need God, not the other way around. We are not a cog in the mechanism of the universe. We are not soldiers in an army that's there to protect God's throne. The universe does not hang on the actions of our lives. This sort of reasoning is a fallacy that's called in logical thinking as an appeal to vanity. There is no divine civil war. The universe always has been and will always firmly be directly in the hands of God. And her reign is not in jeopardy. The only thing that is affected by your choice to seek out God or to not seek out God is the quality of your life, this life, and the possibility of any carryover it may have into the next life. Not even the fate of your own immortal soul is in jeopardy, because all paths, no matter how winding they may be, ultimately lead you to her, to God. Now, if our first sister is knowledge that we discussed in the last video, and our second sister is the knowledge of God, in the next video we're going to discuss the third sister, which is the knowledge of the nature and pattern of life. Now, I invite you to share these videos. I invite you to comment on them, debate them, discuss them. If you understand what an argument really is, then I ask you to argue. Now, we're not talking about verbal fights. We're talking about arguments. If you want to discuss it with me, feel free to message me. Tell me I'm full of it. Don't care. I will discuss it with you. I'm not here to change your mind. All I want to do is to get you to think. The most important thing in what I try to do is to let people understand that they need to think. Just a small little tangent here. Rene Descartes, very famous for saying, "I think, therefore I am." Cogito ergo sum. That's a mistranslation. If you go back and you really do the translation, you will find out, and I could get into the etymology of it, but I'm not, that the proper, or the more, in my opinion, the more proper translation of that would be, "I am thinking, therefore I am." Consider this. If I say I run, that means that sometimes I run 3 times a day, 3 times a week, 1 time a week, however often, but I run. I have the ability to run. Not that I am running now. So I think means that sometimes I think. I have the capability of thinking. I believe what Rene Descartes was trying to say is that when we are in the process of thinking, I am thinking, therefore I am. That's when we are real. That's when we exist. That's when we know we're alive. That's when we know what we are, is in the process of thinking. So consider that. I'm not here to change your mind. All I'm here for is to try to get you to think. If you're thinking, great. We're on the same sheet of music. Whether we think alike or not is completely irrelevant. We just need to think. We are thinking creatures. And when we stop thinking, we stop existing. So learn, listen, think. It's not enough to believe something. That's never enough. Don't believe something because somebody tells you it's true. Question it. Put it through the meat grinder. Think about it. Does it make sense? Does it pass all the different fallacies? Are there any fallacies there? Are there any logical reasoning problems there? Consider it. See where you go. You might find out a lot about yourself, and you might find out that you were right all along. But in the end, you're going to know, not just believe. There's a big difference. There's a big difference between believing something is true and knowing something is true. I invite you to click over to our website, ladyofthecircle.webs.com. Check out the other online venues and ventures. Get in touch with me. Let me know when you're in town. I'm in Thomasville, North Carolina. We have public events at each of the 8 Wiccan Sabbats. We are open for membership. Check out the website. Let me know what you're thinking. Let's talk. This is Reverend Onyx, and I thank you again for listening, and I wholeheartedly apologize for taking so long in making this video. Take care of you, and in all things, may you blessed be.